Hello dear friends, welcome back. Friends, as you know that we are discussing about the structure of the human eye, the anatomy of the human eye. Now up to now I think I have covered the three important, or I think the two important layers of the eye. We had said that human eye is composed of how many coats? It is composed of about three coats: the sclera, right, and the cornea, the sclera, and the uveal tract, right, and then we know that the retina, right. So human eye has these three layers, or these three coats. We know that, and I have discussed about sclera in a big detail. We have covered all the aspects of the sclera. Then we discussed about the uveal tract. In uveal tract, you know that it has been divided into three parts: the choroid, right, the ciliary body, and the iris. And I have discussed each part in detail: the choroid, the ciliary body, and the iris. I have discussed already in the previous lectures. Now the remaining thing is that we should discuss about the retina also. What is retina and what are its functions? Then we will also discuss about the vitreous chamber. I will discuss. Then I will discuss about the lens of the eye, and then I will discuss about the canal of Schlemm. I will cover, and then we will discuss the blood supply and the venous drainage of the eye in the next coming lecture. So we have lot more to see about the eye in the coming lectures. Now we are discussing about the structure of the retina. Now let's know about some important points. First of all, some important points about the retina. Then we will enter and discuss the structure of the retina in a complete lecture, right? So first of all, let me write here we are discussing about the retina. Friends, what is a retina? Retina is the innermost layer of the eye. As you can see here, we have three layers of the eye, three coats of the eye. Now look carefully. This black line, as you can see here, this black coat is the outer fibrous coat of the eye, and this coat, you know that this is called the sclera of your eye, right? This is the sclera. Now below the sclera, or inner to the sclera, we have this red layer. This is called the uveal tract, right? So let me name it here. This is our uvea or uveal tract, right? As you can see here, this is the uveal tract. Now when it goes anteriorly, it makes the ciliary body, right? The ciliary body, and then the iris, right? So we know that the uveal tract is divided into these three parts, and I have discussed them already. Now inner to the uveal tract, right, there is a neural layer of the eye on which the image formation occurs, and that is called the retina. What is retina? Retina is the innermost layer of the eye. Retina is a thin membrane which lies inner to the choroid or inner to the uveal tract, on which the image formation occurs, and we will discuss all of these in detail. Don't worry. So first of all, let me define retina. What is retina? So retina is a thin membrane, right? A thin membrane which begins at optic disc, and I will clear about optic disc. What is it? We will discuss it later. At optic disc, and ends at ora serrata. So that layer of the eye is called retina, right? And the next definition of retina, and the easiest definition, is that a thin membrane, or we say the inner layer or coat of eye, right, on which image formation occurs. Image is formed. That is the retina, right? Now, some important points regarding the retina we should know. If we are looking at the retina, how does it looks? What do we find inside the retina? Right, let me draw an eye here. For example, this is an eye, right? And this is your cornea, right? And then you know that you have your uveal tract, and this is your ciliary body. Same is the case here, and here is your iris, the sample diagram. And then at here you have your retina. Right, now our retina is composed of two layers, right? Retina is composed of two layers, the inner layer and the outer layer, right? Let me make it with two colors. Right, this is your retina. Now you can see the blue color and the green color represents your retina. Now one thing more, here is your vitreous body, right? And here is your lens suspended. Done. This is vitreous body. Now look, one part of the retina is towards the vitreous body and one part of the retina is towards the choroid, right? So that's why we say this green part of the retina is the outer retina, right? And this blue part of the retina is your inner retina, right? This outer retina is composed of what that will be, we will see later, and the inner retina also. Now first of all we should know that our retina is composed of two parts, the outer part and the inner part, the outer retina and the inner retina. The inner retina is also known as the vitreal part of the retina, vitreal, and the outer part of the retina is also known as the scleral part or the choroidal layer of the retina. Done. The next important point about retina is that what is the thickness of the retina? Thickness of our retina. Now look carefully, listen carefully, friends. Let me remove this vitreous body from here, right? And now you are standing here. This is your eye. You are standing here and you are looking at the eye, right? And you're looking at through the cornea, through the anterior chamber or aqueous chamber, and through the lens and inside the eyeball directly into the retina of the eye. So you will find here, look carefully, I have said that retina begins at the optic disc. Now look carefully here, where all the nerve fibers leave the eye. Look carefully here. Here at this part, all the nerve fibers of your retina will leave the eye and will get out from here as an optic nerve, right? So all these fibers come from the retina, right? And they leave your eye like this. So this part where the optic nerve arises and leaves the eye, this point is called your optic disc, right? So what is optic disc? This is optic disc. Optic disc is the part where the optic nerve leaves your eye, right? Arises like this. Look here I have shown all the optic nerve, the fibers, right? The optic fibers that I will discuss later. All these are the fibers of the ganglion cells, like I have shown and I will show you in the later lecture. All of them have been collected in this manner and all are entering all are leaving the eye through optic nerve. So what is this? This is our optic nerve, right? So the fibers are leaving the eye through optic nerve, and this point where the fibers leave the eye, this important point of the eye is called your optic disc. Now look carefully, the retina begins, as I have shown here, at optic disc and goes up to ora serrata. Now what is ora serrata? In the previous lecture I have also told you, but one thing which I will show you here, which point you call exactly the ora serrata. Look carefully. Look friends, our eye is composed of many layers. It is composed of about 10 layers, but I will say that this is the retinal pigment epithelium. I will show it while I will discuss about the structure of the retina. Now we are just discussing some important points regarding the retina. Look carefully. This is the outermost layer of the retina, which is called the retinal pigment epithelium. I have enlarged it here, but moving forward I haven't enlarged it, right? Then after the retinal pigment epithelium, internally there is the rods and cones layer, right? The receptors of the eye, the photoreceptors of the eye, and this is called the rods and cones layer. Now you please watch carefully what I'm saying here. This is the retinal pigment epithelium. Then there is the rods and cones layer. Then there is the bipolar cells, and then there is the ganglion cells that I will discuss later. Now look here. While you are going anteriorly, right? This is the posterior of the eye. This is the anterior of the eye. Look carefully. While you are going anteriorly, follow my marker please. This blue and green and red layer, this is called the rods and cones layer. As you can see here, rods and cones layer. Now the rods and cones layer at this point, right? At this point, they will leave the layer and they will not go forward, right? And also here, look carefully. These are the rods and cones layer, and they are going forward, 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 and forward, and they will stop here, right? So the point, look carefully, the point where the rods and cones layer will stop and will not go forward, that exact point is called the ora serrata, right? What is ora serrata? Ora serrata is the point where the rods and cones will stop and will not go forward. That's all. Now the retina mainly is composed of how many layers? It is mainly composed of 3 layers. Look carefully. The retinal pigment epithelium, the rods and cones layer, and the neural layer. Right? So look here. The retinal pigment epithelium is going forward, right? And it is behind the ciliary body and also goes forward behind the iris. Then you can also see that this neural layer, as you can see here, I have enlarged it here, but when it goes further forward, I have minimized it. Look, this is the retinal neural layer, and it is going behind the ciliary body and also behind the iris, right? But the middle layer of your retina will stop at this point, right? And this point where the middle layer or the rods and cones layer of the retina stops, this is called the ora serrata. Now as I have told you here that the retina begins at the optic disc and moves up to your ora serrata. So this point will be your ora serrata. Done. Clear. Now the thickness of your retina, what is the thickness of retina? Here at this point at the optic disc, the thickness of your retina is a little bit narrower than the thickness anteriorly. Now when you go anteriorly, its thickness a little bit increases, right? But at the optic disc, it is very thinner, right? So the thickness at the optic disc is less, or anteriorly it will become more. So let's write it here. Thickness at optic disc is 0.4 millimeter and the thickness anteriorly is 0.15 millimeter. Right friends, this was about the thickness. Now where is the location of your retina? Where is the retina located? Look carefully. If you want to write about the location, you can write this word, this sentence here, that retina begins at the optic disc and ends at ora serrata. And the next important thing, you can also say that retina is located behind the vitreous body and anterior to the uveal tract or choroid. So I will write it. It is located behind. It is located behind vitreous body and anterior to choroid. This is the exact location of your retina. Look, this here is your vitreous chamber or vitreous body, right? So the retina is located behind the vitreous body, and this is your choroidal layer. And at this point, the retina will vanish and will not go forward. So the retina is located anterior to the choroid and posterior to your vitreous body. Now the next important thing, that what is ora serrata? Ora serrata. As I told you there, that the point where the retinal the rods and cones will not go forward, and only retinal pigment epithelium and neural layer will go forward, that point is called the ora serrata. Now let me mention it again for you guys. The anterior termination of the light sensitive part of the retina. Let me write the definition first of all. The anterior termination of light sensitive part of retina is called ora serrata. Look carefully, friends. Look, this is, for example, you just consider that I'm drawing only the retina, right? This blue layer, right? This blue layer is the anterior part of your retina, right? Then there is the rods and cones layer. There is the rods and cones, right? And behind that there is the retinal pigment epithelium. What is there, friends? Retinal pigment epithelium. So this is the neural layer. Neural. This black line, this black layer is the rods and cones layer, right? And this is the retinal pigment epithelium, right? And you know that behind it there is the choroid. This is our choroidal layer. Now you know well that when choroidal layer goes anteriorly, it makes the ciliary body and the iris. And so is the case for here. It is your iris. Now look carefully, friends. Look. This black layer represents your rods and cones layer, right? The photosensitive layer, the light sensitive. Why? Because when light falls on the retina, the light will travel all along through these layers of the retina and will come to the rods and cones layer, and they will activate these rods and cones, and then the current will flow radially, right? And then the current will flow again backward. So that will be shown while I discuss about the structure of the retina. Don't worry, guys. Look, this green layer is the retinal pigment epithelium, and this retinal pigment epithelium will go on the posterior side of the ciliary body and also on the posterior side of your iris, and so is the case for above, like this. Then this neural layer of the retina will also go forward like this. But what happened? This rods and cones layer will not go forward, and they will terminate at that point, at this point, right? So the point where the light sensitive, we call it light sensitive. So from light sensitive we means the rods and cones of the retina, right? So the rods and cones of the retina will stop here and they will not go forward. So this point is called the ora serrata. I hope you understand now, right? So that is ora serrata. The next important point about retina, that is, how many parts does our retina has? The parts of the retina. Look carefully, friends. Look at here. Very simple. You know that this green layer is also belonging to your retina. This blue layer also belongs to your retina, right? And this photosensitive layer also belongs to your retina. Now look carefully, look carefully. When light falls, right, when light falls on the retina, so only that part of the retina will receive the light which contains the rods and cones, right? Once again, when light falls on your retina, only that part of the retina will receive the light and will generate impulses which contains the rods and cones. But the part of the retina which does not contain rods and cones, that will not receive the light, that will not generate the action potential, right? So look carefully, this part is also belonging to retina, and the part of the retina which is present behind the iris, this is also part of the retina, and the part of the retina which is present behind the ciliary body, that is also the retina, right? So we say that retina has three important parts. What are those parts? The first part is the optic part.